I want to talk about the problem with research studies. The first point I want to bring up is just the assumption that medicine is scientific, okay? Because medical doctors wear white lab coats and so do scientists. So therefore, it's scientific, right? But medicine has become the management of symptoms using drugs, which then give side effects, which then you add more drugs, and it just keeps going around and around. To me, that's not science. Now, I'm not talking about emergency care, you break a bone. I'm talking about just the amount of medication given to people. I think it's like 4 billion prescriptions every single year. That's 13 drugs for every man, woman, and child. To me, that's a bit too much. Now, the first problem with research studies is the interpretation. Very few people can actually interpret what they mean because it's encoded in a special language. And you also have to have some basic physiology to be able to understand it as well. So now you're relying on someone else interpreting it for you. And of course, who knows if they're biased, if they're taking an objective view of exactly what was shown in the study. But I think it's even third-hand information because you have the researcher that's doing their interpretation of the data, and then you have someone interpreting, and then you get this funnel effect, you know. And then some people actually get their information from the media interpretation of the study, so it gets watered down even more. You can probably get the opposite finding if you listen to the media. But the point is that very few people can interpret and really understand what the study says, and let alone actually read the study. Very few people even read the study. They'll just get their information from someone else who read it online or something. Number two, I don't know if you realize this, but 75% of the studies in journals are funded by big pharma. So right there, that really lowers the credibility of the study. Number three, data can be manipulated. You could make a study, basically say whatever you want, okay? I'm going to put an article down below with more data on that. It's actually quite fascinating. But a lot of the studies out there have data that's been manipulated, okay? Like, let's just take the Framingham study. In that study, they omitted some real key pieces of data. They just took it out. And so they used the data that they wanted to prove their theory. So when you have a researcher going into a study already knowing the conclusion, which is very common, by the way, they're gonna manipulate it how they want it. Okay. There's also corruption going on all the time. So in 1965, the sugar industry paid off some really key, credible Harvard researchers, okay, to downplay the effect of certain research, to kind of ignore it and suppress the effects of sugar on cardiovascular and also sugar on dental decay, and emphasize the cholesterol. So there's a lot of corruption going on as well. Number four, it's very difficult to do studies in general and prove something because there are so many variables. How do you isolate something, especially when you're dealing with food? Because the combinations of food, you're isolating a nutrient, you're taking this out. There's so many different compounds, so it is very difficult to do studies, especially if you're doing it on complex food groups and things like that. Now, I just want to let you know I'm not against studies. I just think you should also include this other thing called experience, okay? Which is firsthand you experiencing a diet or a combination of foods to see if it works on you. Of course, you have to have the correct knowledge, but if you apply it, okay, to yourself, you get the experience, then you personally will have the certainty firsthand, and you're not going to be distracted by maybe some of these side studies that will oppose you because you actually got the results. Like in the ketogenic diet, for example, there's not a lot of research, but we have a lot of people have gone through it with amazing results, incredible results, life-changing results. No one's going to tell them it didn't work on them. So don't forget about using your own personal experience, especially when it relates to diet and exercise and intermittent fasting. All right, guys, so go ahead and comment below and tell me what you think about this topic. Hey guys, so there's a whole bunch of people that really need this information. So press the share button and let's get it way out there.